like a bird in the sky. The legend of the electric scooter guy. No gas, no fumes, just a hum in the air. A helmet on crooked, like he doesn't care. With a backpack full of snacks and a gleam in his eye. He's the hero we need, the electric scooter guy.
What's up, guys? Hope you like the intro there. So just want to do a quick video. Sorry it's been a little bit since I did a video. I haven't had a lot to do a video on. The weekends, although the weather's been nicer in general, the weekends here have been raining for the past 2 weeks. So I haven't got to do any kind of fun riding around, which I was going to try to kind of build in. All these trips to Walmart and places, it kind of gets repetitive, and you guys kind of see the same thing over and over again. I try to bring different commentary to it, but I know you guys get tired of seeing the same type of footage. So I thought I would do this video today. It's in the rain. I thought I'd kind of talk about that a little bit. It's not really super rainy out, which I probably would not have went out at all. But it was kind of misty, really, to be honest. It wasn't even like sprinkling. It was just kind of misty in the air. It had been raining. Like I said, it's been raining a lot here during the weekends for the most part. So this past weekend, I didn't get to go on my scooter. The weekend before that, I didn't get to go on my scooter, making my normal little errands and stuff like that during the week sometimes. That's about it. So, like I said, I've got a few things I'm going to talk about today. I wanted to show you this rainy day ride on the Klima, so to speak. For the most part, it's just really wet out. Like I said, it wasn't coming down. It didn't obstruct my view. It didn't really get the scooter incredibly wet or anything like that. It wasn't just being doused in water, but it was a wet day, kind of a nasty day to be out, and I decided to go out on the Klima just to kind of test it out and see how that would kind of go. So I'm gonna try to get more videos going. Speaking of which, I have another podcast coming up. I've been working on getting a podcast. I'm not abandoning the idea, but it just hasn't come together. I like to get at least 3 people. Otherwise, I don't know. It's just not the same. I like the conversation kind of flowing back and forth between at least 3 people, and kind of letting it sort of evolve naturally, as opposed to it seeming more like a boring kind of just interview more than a podcast. I kind of like the fun podcast kind of feel. So now, to be honest, the videos haven't done that great on the channel. There were some of my lowest views. I just enjoy doing them, and I kind of hope they catch on. And I know some of you guys enjoy it too. So I'm hoping they catch on, even though it doesn't seem to be the huge popular videos. I'm not sure if they ever will be, but I enjoy them. And as long as, a lot of you guys enjoy them too and ask for them, and I have the opportunity, I will definitely be jumping on to do podcasts when I can. And so I just haven't had any takers. Tiger Grimtack's been pretty busy. And I just haven't, Louis hasn't been doing any able to do any podcasts lately. So the Average Guy 1983. And so I just haven't had, the opportunity to get on and do a podcast. But this weekend coming up, I'm going to do a podcast with Tiger Grimtack. And then Melvin from Voro Motors is actually going to join. So it's going to be me, Tiger, and Melvin. And that'll be fun. So asking him some questions about some of the scooters and what's going on at Voro Motors, what all is coming up, to see what he'll give us. I know the Daytona is supposed to be coming out. I think there's going to be a couple different versions, so I'll try to get some more information around that. Ask him about some of the other things that's going on there, and it should be fun. So I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate Melvin coming on for sure. He's been out of town, I think, out of the country, and so he hasn't had time, but he got back. I sent him an email a while back, and he got back and said that he'll be willing to come on. So this Saturday we're gonna film it, record it, whatever, and then it will be on probably Sunday. So kind of wanted to do a video real quick, kind of talk about, give you guys an update. If you have any questions you'd like me to ask Melvin, put them in the comments, and I'll do my best to try to squeeze them in, especially if I see more, a lot of them coming up. But make no promises, because it's going to kind of flow, and I'll squeeze in what I can. But if you have something that you'd like me to ask, and I have an opportunity to ask it, I certainly will. So please put in the comments, and I'll do my best to bring it up during the podcast. Looking forward to that. So once again, let's kind of talk about. Let's go over some scooters that have been released this year already. I mean, we're closing in on May, and I kind of expected a lot more scooters to be out by now. Segway hasn't released their dual motor scooter that they're supposed to release. The GT3 Pro, I think they got the GT3, which is the single motor, and then the GT3 Pro they have not released. So they released the GT3, and they released one of the new E2s or F2s, and then I don't follow those tiny scooters very much. And then of course they got their Max G3 that they just released. So sort of talking about the scooters that have released so far, and I'm trying to think if I'm missing any. Apollo, they kind of sort of released the Phantoms last year, and they're just kind of starting to be available and being shipped out. So you could debate whether or not that was a late 2024 release, because you could actually order it late 2024, or a 2025 release, since they didn't actually hit the market in 2024, and they didn't get delivered until 2025. So there was no real riding the scooters in general until 2025. So I'll talk about a few of those and sort of real quick what my thoughts on them. And so Segway, the one scooter I was sort of curious about was the Max G3. I considered getting it. Just for a split second, I considered getting it, and I considered getting the Max G3, but I really considered it. They hype it up quite a bit, and some of the specs that they give seem like it would blow the Go out of the water and compete on the level with the Klima, which I just find incredibly difficult to believe. But that's what they said, and so I was a little bit curious to see how that would go. I may get an opportunity to test the G3 in the future, but I'm not gonna get it. It's a really difficult situation, decision to make, where I'm trying to talk myself into getting a single motor scooter, because I go down that road, and every time I see, it was so hyped up, and all these great stats where features and specs and so forth were touted, and you get curious. You're like, if it can really do these things, if it has an acceleration close to the Klima, 2 point something seconds to 15, that'll wipe the Go off the map, which, to be honest, should translate into hill climbing as well. If you've got that kind of acceleration, you've got power, whether it's from one wheel or two. Now, two has a slight advantage on traction up like steep hills and so forth, but there shouldn't be a reason for the Segway, if it's got a faster acceleration, not to have the power to get up the hill at the same speed. Now, once again, traction, getting, that kind of thing, sure. But I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. I really don't think the Max G3 has the acceleration that the Go has, and I don't think it can beat it up a hill. It has around the same top speed, I think, around 25 miles per hour. So, that's close. But I really believe the Go would outperform the G3 quite easily. and I'd like to be able to prove that, but I'm not going to buy it just to prove that. And that's kind of what I was curious about. I wanted to say, like, I don't buy it, but I don't believe it, but I'm sort of curious to see how close it could get, and I can't justify doing that, spending my money just to test that out. So if I get to test it out, I do have a buddy that got one. He's I don't know when he's gonna have time to get out and go riding again, or if he's gonna want to get out on the Segway Max G3. He's kind of given me some quick feedback on it already, and some of the feedback that I've seen on scooter channels, which some of it you gotta take with a grain of salt because they're trying to sell the scooters, but for the most part, I'll always say that I was right. I think I'm right. I don't think it'll outperform the Go. I think some of the hype has been very much hype. The range is terrible. The only thing that will make up for that is that they are coming up with another battery. They are coming out with an extendable, range battery, so to speak, for I guess a few of their scooters, including the Max G3. So you'll be able to put an expandable battery on there, and that will increase your range. I think 80%, something like that is the thing. But when you're considering that, and the scooter is like, was it $899, $900 or something like that for pre-release, and I don't know what it is now. Maybe it went into $1,200 or something like that. But then you got to buy a battery. So even if you got to do a pre-release, you got to pay $900, and it'll probably get that $900 again at some point. But even if you got it for that, and you decided to get the extra battery, now you're talking extra money. So can it compete? Is the range worth paying that kind of money for what you get with the basic battery? I don't think so. I'm hearing it's really, and it's not a big battery. So they kind of cut some corners there and decided to do to put out, I guess, a few scooters that don't have a spectacular range, but give you the option to increase your range if you need it. It's definitely cool that you can do that, but you got to build that into the price. You got to say, and it's not out yet. I think it's supposed to come out this summer, I believe. But you've got to take that into consideration, and you got to calculate that into the price of the scooter. Are you willing to pay, I don't even know what it is, $800, maybe something like that, on top of, if you pay certainly like $1,200 or $1,300 or whatever it is right now. I thought it was $1,299 last time I looked, but hopefully not. And so $1,800 for a Segway Max G3 with probably the same range as it got last time. I think it went down in battery size from what they had in the Max G2. And from what I get back from my buddy that's already tested it out, there are some things that the Max G2 does better. Maybe range. I'm trying to remember, but he mentioned that it wasn't across the board better than the G2. The G2 had some advantages. Maybe it was the ride feel. He mentioned the traction control, whatever they call it, the stability, Segway stability, or there's a name for it. I don't remember what they call it. Like seg range, rangy long. I don't even know. They have all these different things. But anyway, whatever it is, they've got a stability mechanism built into the Segways. I think most of them now, including the Max G3, that kind of hinders your ability to ride the scooter the way you normally would. And so it's kind of overprotective in a sense. And so it makes the ride less enjoyable, more safe, but less enjoyable. So not sure, just depends on how you feel about that. I like safe scooters, but at the same time, I'm personally responsible enough to ride a scooter around and not have it override my what I want. And you should at least be able to turn that off if you don't like it. But from what I understand, it's just part of the part of the Segways now on the Max G2 and so overall Max G3 and overall. So I'm definitely glad I didn't pull the trigger on it, because I definitely think it would have been a disappointment, and hopefully, like I said, I'll get a chance to kind of prove that in the future with a ride. I'm sure it does some things better than the Go. From what I understand, the Max G2 has more plush suspension. It has a better ride feel than the Go. I doubt it has a better ride feel than the Klima, but for the price, it's more comparable to the Go. And the Go, I don't have a problem with personally. It's not rough, but it's not the Klima, and I got no problems with the Go suspension. I never feel like I'm gonna get thrown off or my hands are gonna get knocked off. And so, as I said, I really don't have a I really don't have a I really don't have a problem with the suspension. So I'm not necessarily looking for $1,000 scooter with better suspension, but lacking power to get up hills and acceleration. So I'll give up plush suspension every time. So yeah, I personally, I don't have a problem with the suspension on the Go. It's not as good as the Klima. Much better than the Hover One Journey Max, which has no suspension. And so I rather like that. I like that scooter a lot, the Go. And so I wouldn't give up dual motors, which for acceleration, hill climbing, and so forth, just to get a better suspension on the scooter. For me, it's more important to be able to get up hills and to get going. If I've got to jump out in the street real quick, I want to be able to get up to 20 plus miles an hour pretty quickly as possible. I don't want to sit and wait to get up to that speed because the acceleration is lacking, and have cars, worried about, me getting up, getting out of their way or whatever. So, to me, it's more important to have acceleration and hill climbing ability than plush suspension, or any suspension across the board. Now, would I give up suspension on the same scooter? For example, that the scooter I fixed for my buddy, H85 or whatever it was, that scooter has suspension but had solid tires. And if I was looking at another single motor scooter that had air-filled tires, let's say tube tires, and it had no suspension, if it was a single motor scooter, I would choose the suspension over air tires. Of course, with the Journey Max having dual motors, I would choose that over the H85 every day, whatever it was. But that scooter that I tested out and changed the throttle on, I would take it over that hands down because of the power, acceleration, hill climbing, dual motors. Two completely different scooters in every way. So when you want to go, not the Apollo Go, but when you want to move, and so I felt like you can't. It's really difficult to compare a single motor scooter to a dual motor scooter of the same caliber, and just maybe in general a bit. You see that dog try to come after me, but it's a regular everyday thing. Dogs trying to chase me on a scooter. But yeah, I feel like I would never choose a single motor scooter over a dual motor scooter. all other things equal. I mean, me personally, I don't care for the single motors, as you guys probably know. I've the only one I've really gotten to ride so far has been that one. That was my first scooter that I ever rode. I didn't know what to compare it to then. It even then, I wasn't scared of the speed or anything, but I certainly wasn't comfortable on jumping on a scooter, having never ridden one before. So when I got the Journey Max, it took a little while to get used to. I drove around in D mode for a while, while I was getting used to the scooter, and then eventually I was able to get up to sports mode, and now that would seem a bit slow to me. Even the Go can get up to 25 miles an hour, and so once it gets up that high, it's not just it has the same level of acceleration, but it gets up to 20-ish pretty quickly. And so does that's as high as it gets, but so does the Journey Max. It has no problem getting up to 20 miles an hour. So that's sort of my my take on that. And what else has come out? The Apollos. I've got to go. I hope it does well. I think it's a solid little scooter, but it seems like when you go up in scooters and they try to become more, I say, fancy, add things and make the scooter, be worth more money. There's a flaw, and I can't say 100% on their newer scooters, but I can certainly say in like just last year's version, like the 2024 version, I see problems across the board. Now that I have a Apollo Go, I joined a Apollo community on social media, Apollo board, Apollo group, whatever you want to call it, and so I follow pretty closely now that I have a Go, and I see people come on there with their problems, and my buddies told me about his problems. Stems are a real issue. I hear more stem issues from the Apollo line in general, a lot with the city too, and I hear lots of issues, lots, and stem issues for the most part. I don't see too much else. There's a few little things here and there, but they seem to be pretty random. But I see consistently stem issues. My buddy has had his overheat on him, and he has stem issues on both of his, which he's got a Phantom V4, not the V4X, obviously not the new Phantom, but the V4. He has stem issues on that one, and that's crazy to me. And I mean serious stem issues. Like once again, I feel like sometimes I'm a little too critical, a little too picky, but the stem creak on the Nami kind of bugged me at first. Like I said, it's a brand new scooter. I wasn't expecting those types of things, and so I just I wanted it to be a perfect scooter. And as soon as I started riding, the stem had a little creak in it. I heard a couple things to try to get it to fix. There was no really play in the stem itself. It's got some flex to it. It's all the play. It's a fairly thin stem compared to pretty much every scooter that I've had. The Go is pretty hefty. The Journey Max is a pretty hefty stem, but it's got some flex to it. And I wish it had a little bit more beefier stem on the Namis in general, but regardless, they do their job, and for the most part, and they don't completely wear down. And so you've got that. I'm always careful with cars. I'm until I see them, that they see me, I just don't commit to going out there. I might try to pull out there a little bit, and as soon as I see them glance over, then I'll go ahead and go. But I'm not willing to just jump out there and hope that they're paying attention. So yeah, that's the one thing about Apollo I will say is just stem issues. Maybe the Go is a little more simple, not as much. They don't got the. It's very compact and pretty solid, a lot like the Journey Max. But you get up, you get the bigger handlebars, and you've got taller, and then you've got more pressure on the stem latch and so forth. And I'm not sure it's the same stem latch. I don't recall. I'm pretty sure it isn't. And so you got all these things that's contributing to the stem problems. I had another guy reach out to me, and ask me, because he sees me on those boards, and I don't participate a lot of times, but sometimes because of some of the things, I might put an emoji on there or something like that. But anyway, a guy reached out to me. He asked me if I had any problems with my Apollo Go, and I told him I didn't have any personal problems with I really haven't had it long enough to have any problems. I doubt I have 100 miles on it. Really, to be honest, and it's more of a backup scooter. I didn't get it to be a main scooter. I got it maybe if my wife wanted to ride with me, which she doesn't do very often. She rode the Journey Max not with me. We only had one helmet, so we had to go back and forth. She would ride, and then I would ride, even though I had two Journey Maxes. So, because I just don't ride without a helmet, and I wouldn't want her to ride without one either. So, I have two helmets now. Of course, I got the mountain bike style helmet with the goggles, and then I got the full face, which I'm wearing here, motorcycle style helmet, because I have the Klima now. And so I always say when I got a bigger scooter that could go faster, I would get a safer, more beefy motorcycle style helmet like I've got now. So that's what I did. The Apollos. So the Apollos, the Phantoms, I think they're cool, but I got a problem, with that. As I said, the guy reached out to me. He asked me if I had any problems. I said I haven't really had it long enough to say one way or the other. I'll certainly give updates as I go. Zero problems yet. No problems. The one thing that's a problem, and it may become a little bit of a pain in the future, is that the rubber on the deck in two spots wasn't completely flush with the deck, and so it had a little lip, kind of popping up in two places, and not enough to come up or anything like that, but you can kind of tell, and I've been paying attention to that, and once again, it has less than 100 miles, and it looks like it's maybe starting to get worse and pull away even more. It's probably not a big deal. I'll probably fix it. I'll get some super glue or something and stick it down on there. But that's not something that is a deal breaker by any means. But it is annoying, and you want your scooter, especially like I said, brand new, to be kind of brand new. Nothing I would complain about something like that. It wasn't a lack of quality control. It looks like just something a slight lack in quality control, but not a serious lack in quality control. And so you have that, but that's literally the only really complaint I have about the scooter as far as that goes. It came to me pretty spectacular. It had that problem right out of the box, but it was hardly noticeable. And compared to some of the other problems that I've had, it was kind of a surprise to me. So, not complaining too much about that, but just the other stuff that I've heard. And this guy, he asked me if I had any problems. I said I haven't really had any problems, and he said that he has. He said I've had my share of problems, and he bought two 2024 Apollo Cities, and I guess for him and his wife, and that was his first scooter. And I always say, Apollo City, it's okay. I mean, I don't know how much you paid, but they go for about $1,500. I've seen them for the first time ever as low as $1,300. Had they been $1,300 when I got my Go, I might have gotten a City. But I'm glad I did not. And to be honest, I'm glad I didn't. I'm happy with the Go. I was kind of glad I didn't spend more than $1,000 on it, just in case. But the Go being the City being a little bit more expensive, a little better scooter, spec wise and so forth. It's fine. I rode the City. I didn't see a ton of difference in the performance between the Go and the in the city. Like I said, even the Go might have felt a little more punchy. It might have been a little bit more punchy. Not sure why that is. I had it all the way up in the top mode, and it's fine. It's fine. It certainly isn't the H85 or whatever. It's certainly not that. And it's a dual motor, and so, but it just wasn't. It didn't feel as punchy. Nice big, almost more close to the size of the Klima than the Go. Obviously, the Go's a little bit more, but that's what I got it for. Throw it in the back of the trunk and get going, or if I'm kind of in a hurry, I can just grab it and run out of the door real quick if I want to make a quick trip and not mess with wrestling with the Klima a little bit. Not too big of a deal, but still not as easy as the Go. The Go is just like almost toss it on your back and go and run out the door. But really really easy to carry around and for mobility and portability. But he said he had stem issues on both of his Apollo cities, and so the same stuff, the same stem issues I see people post on, same ones that my buddy had, and that's just not okay. I asked him about overheating. He said that wasn't a problem, so that may be an issue with my buddy's scooter. He seemed to think it was he's close to the top weight of the scooter, which I think is 265. I don't see that as an excuse. If the scooter is rated for 265, it should be able to perform to its full potential with a 265-pound rider. I mean, if he was 365, you could make an argument that 100 pounds over or something like that is an issue. But the fact is, he's not. He's right around the max size of the scooter, and it overheats on him. It overheated during our ride, which I found a bit surprising. But the guy said he didn't have any overheating issues, but he had the stem issues, and they finally gave him another one or something. So, not two of them though. I think he bought two, and they both have stem issues, and that's just that's a real sticking point for me. And so I'll give the warning to consider that if you buy an Apollo. He hasn't had much luck getting that fixed on his scooters, my buddy. And so he has, like I said, the Apollo Phantom and the Apollo City, and both of them have a clicking, clunky. I call it like a clunky sound. When I rode it, I was like, it's clunky. Even like I said, the Journey Max was solid, like a little tank. It was much more like the Go, as far as that goes. The stem is super beefy, locked in real well. Never had any stem play. He's only got 500 miles on his. My buddy, the guy who had these stem problems, had it under 200 miles. He didn't have 200 miles on his scooters when they started having clicking in the stem, clunkiness, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm sorry, 200 miles on a scooter and you've got stem issues. I did see a person post on there, and I think they had more on their scooter, but it broke at the base where the stem is. It just completely ended up breaking there. And so I got a question about their build quality. I know they try to be nice, and they have they have pretty good tech, and they look cool. They certainly look cool, and they've got some cool features. And in general, they feel nice, but they don't hold up. My opinion, Apollo doesn't hold up in general. I'm hoping my Go does, but once again, it's a backup. I'm not planning on putting a ton of miles on it. I've ridden it. I like it, but it's just a backup. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't enjoy riding it like I do the Klima. It just doesn't have the same feel to it. The acceleration, the power, the ride, everything is miles ahead of the Go, obviously, with the Klima. So I'm not that excited about those. Segway hasn't released their scooters. I've been waiting on the Daytona project to come out, and I think it is finally come out. They have it listed on their site, and I'll find out more about that with Melvin for sure on Saturday. I'll get some more information about that. I'm pretty sure he's excited to talk about it, and I'm excited to hear it. So we'll see how that goes. I can't think of any other. Is there any other scooters that are? Oh yeah, the Max Fun 10 Max. Very interesting scooter, spec'd out like crazy. Right now, it's competitive with the RS Lite from InMotion, and I'm also waiting. And the InMotion is supposed to come out with their new scooters. Hopefully that'll be pretty soon. But I expected, kind of springtime and the weather's starting to get nice. I expected these scooters to start hitting the market during the prime time of the year, because you've got a window where people can really just get out and enjoy their scooters. And from a business standpoint, you kind of want to get in early on that window so that you can sell as many scooters during the hot times. Not necessarily hot outside, but nice outside. But during the busy part where people are buying scooters, I guarantee, based on my experience and so forth, seasonality, scooters has the seasonality, and there's much more of a demand for scooters in the summer than the rest of the year, spring and summer, period. So, I mean, I've never even looked at the data, but I don't have to. That's just something that I can say with confidence. All right, so move over to some different footage while I'm wrapping up, so you guys can at least watch some footage while I'm talking. This is a different day, a different trip, but I thought I'd add it in here anyway, just to have something, like I said, kind of going on in the background while I'm wrapping everything up. But still haven't got to everything I wanted to talk about today. Here's a guy coming on a bicycle, looks like. But yeah, like I said, Max Fun 10 Max. It's spec'd out. It competes with the RS, InMotion RS. But yeah, I've expected companies to kind of hit the market running by this time. By this time already, maybe March or April. Right when the season starts kind of getting nicer to ride out in a lot of areas. It starts to become scooter weather. And so, like I said, if you had a new scooter wanting to come out, I would certainly have it, try to have it ready to go. They have the CES stuff right in the spring and talk about all these exciting things coming up. But then, and I know there are issues that sort of prevent things to be on exactly on time, especially new stuff. Every job that I've had where there's a rollout of a new software or a merging of data, whatever it is, some big deal, it's always stalled. It's always pushed back, and then it always has problems anyway. There's always things to work through. They really should have a different, try to cover all their bases, but it's not really possible. You can try to think of everything you could think of, and then when you get going, you're still going to have things that you didn't consider that are issues, and you're going to have to work through those things. So similar with scooters, new scooters that come out there, they do the best they can. Some places do a better job than others, but I've never seen any kind of rollout whatsoever become just without an issue. There's going to be some bumps in the road that you're going to have to deal with, and so, like I said, same is true with the scooters. In any case, the Max Fun 10 Max looks interesting. The new RSs, I'm curious to see how those go and prices and stuff like that. I think they keep the old ones around. Are there going to be really good deals on the old ones? Still a little nervous about that because they'll be old and they haven't done the best job with supporting those scooters InMotion, and so I'd be, I'm afraid that might even get worse. Like they're like, well, we don't support those anymore. They've been a problem as far as some of the issues with their motor controllers, and even batteries, motherboards, so forth, motor wires have any issues with the motors themselves, and so just problems like that. I would expect overheating issues. They also have overheating issues. They're performance scooters, but they overheat. It seems like fairly easily if you try to use them the way they're supposed to be used, which is what's the point? That's why you buy them. If you buy a scooter that can go 65 miles an hour, not that I would, but you should be able to do that without any overheating issues. The scooter should be able to do that across the board, with no problems. Not if you're 150 pounds, not if you're 250 pounds. If you're within a weight limit of the scooter, you should be able to ride it just the way that it's supposed to be ridden. I'd say even given a margin of error. You need a little bit of a margin for error. So I'd be more conservative and say, if I know you want people to buy your scooters, but they do it all the time. They're so ready to say it'll get 500 miles of range, it'll go 100 miles an hour, and it can support 500 pounds of payload, and it can do none of those things, and sometimes not even close. You can go maybe 50 downhill. It'll get you 20 miles of range if it's mostly downhill, and it'll get you, and it can support maybe 250 pounds. So. That, come on. When you're talking about a 50% decrease in what they say they can do, guys, it's time to rework your strategy. It's time to be more conservative and put numbers out there that are more realistic. Some people say, well, you can get this in eco mode, you can get this in sports mode, you can get this in turbo mode, whatever it is, whatever their highest mode is, and then they kind of, but just give a realistic picture of range. You guys have these scooters. You test these scooters. A lot of people, they have testing programs. Get some feedback. Like what range are you getting on a normal person with a normal weight within the range, hopefully towards the top end. I mean, if you're going to give specs, give them for what you rate the scooter at. And test them at those rates. Don't test them with 150-pound riders. I mean, that's ridiculous. So, I mean, that's ridiculous. And there really has to be some adjustments made in that. And it seems like everybody's just trying to catch up. Everybody's trying to catch up. I asked Apollo about that, and they said something about being able to go into the app and put your stuff in there. And they told me all this stuff on there. And I haven't seen a single way to do that. I've went through everything in the app that I could find. I don't see a place to do that. If there's a secret password or a cheat I have to get there, someone needs to kind of fill me in on that. The basic stuff in the app, there's nowhere to do anything than the basic stuff. Adjust the acceleration, cruise control, kick to start, all the basic stuff. I didn't see. I know that maybe the higher end ones do, but the Go does not anywhere that I could find, and so I just don't see. I didn't see that being a point. And in other words, I just felt like I was kind of giving the brush off on that one. Like, yeah, we know, so what? And they want to sell scooters. They want to sell scooters so bad that they're willing to ruin their reputation long term to sell scooters. And I'm sorry, as soon as someone starts being real, as soon as a scooter company starts being real, putting real stats on there and people get them, they're going to sell. They may not sell as much as the ones early on that claim they can get 2,000 miles of range, but they're going to catch on. People are going to see like, oh, okay, they stated 50 miles of range and they actually got 50 miles of range, or they're honest about it. I see that again and again. Now me, I've become watching lots of videos, doing my own stuff. I know not to believe them. A guy was complaining about his Go and said he was supposed to get 50 miles of range. And the GX3 that came out was supposed to get whatever range they said. It's not even going to come close. You might get 10 miles. I mean, it's ridiculous on some of these ranges that they state. That's one of the things about e-bikes that kind of, when they say to me, well, if you pedal, you can have millions of miles of range. I mean, you just pedal. I don't want to pedal. And if I do, I certainly don't want that to be calculated in the range estimation that you give me. I want to know what the electric motor can do. And so they should only state throttle. I'm not going to get into e-bikes, but they should only state throttle only ranges. So, I know there are factors that go into it, and I know that it's difficult there's riding style, there's rider weight, there's all these things to consider, but you should be more conservative. You should be more conservative, and you should under promise and over deliver, not the other way around. And it seems like scooter companies across the board do that. They under promise and they over promise and under deliver. So they're sacrificing their long term image, their long term viability. They don't care if they build a good name. Their brand recognition gets crap because people can't trust you. People can't trust what you're saying, and I don't know if they understand how important that is. I get the answers I've gotten back are like, well, we're doing that because of this. And the truth is, I don't care why you're doing it. I don't care what reasons you have. I don't care how many reasons you give me. There's no good reason. You're not going to go out of business because you put a realistic range on your stats. Eventually you might go out of business when other scooter companies come out that are honest, or someone takes the lead and starts being a lot more transparent with their problems and starts stepping up their customer service. These things are going to come to pass. They're going to. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so you've got to build the trust now. You've got to build the trust now. You're going to look stupid in the future. You're going to look silly when other companies start making you look silly. Meanwhile, I take it with a grain of salt. You guys should take it with a grain of salt. You should, and I said this too. I said, you know what? Maybe I should have joined the Apollo community before I bought an Apollo. If I buy another scooter in the future, can't go buy another scooter in the past. Not yet. I'm just kidding. So in the future, if I buy another scooter, which I probably will, I'm going to join a group or board or whatever that I can see, that I can get some feedback and know what the problems are. That way I'm prepared. That way, once I bought the Go, I started watching the Apollo boards. And once I bought the Klima, I started watching the Nami boards. And I wanted to know the issues. I wanted to know the problems. And I wanted to know the general sentiment. The general sentiment towards Nami's is pretty good. Pretty good in general. There's very few people that are just completely anti-Nami. And there's lots of supporters. Apollo, it's mixed. It's mixed, maybe 50-50. People that like the Apollos, and there are people that just don't like the Apollos and have problems with their Apollos for whatever reason. But there's definitely issues across the board with Apollo. Some of my personal experience dealing with them, just for general questions and so forth, hasn't been the best. They've been pretty speedy about getting back, but they're kind of vague, and it seems like if I kind of throw them, once again, like the stuff that I'm talking about, they kind of don't want to really talk. They kind of don't want to really address that. They kind of don't want to get into a big deal about it because they're not going to do anything about it. And so they'll kind of give me the brush off and, in a nice way, tell me to go somewhere. And so I don't continue that. And even though, like I said, it's not necessarily about the support, I'm not calling because I had to get something fixed on my scooter. I have questions, sometimes about my scooter, sometimes about issues, whatever it is. And if it's an easy answer, and certainly when I was trying to buy a scooter, that's one of the things, like, you get so much support when you're asking a question about purchasing a scooter. Once you purchase a scooter and you've got problems, that's when it becomes a little slower. The feedback becomes, it's kind of harder to get someone on the line. The only thing I've had a question about was the battery not going to full charge. They explained that it was because of a safety feature or something along those lines, where at the end the battery monitoring system will start balancing the battery, and so even though it's 100% or close to 100%, it won't shut off until it's done with that. So I let it. I checked it. It was 100, and I still didn't turn it off. I let it keep going, and just like they said, it did eventually turn green, but it didn't do it right when it went to 100%, which I don't think I've seen before. So that's fine. It's fine. No big deal. It did turn green, just like they said. So no issues. I don't remember them getting back super fast, but it was fast enough within the day, and no issues whatsoever. I did test it out once they told me, because I wanted to see if they were just kind of giving me the runaround, but they were correct, and so no problems there. If it's not something easy, if it's not something they can benefit from, in my opinion, they're either going to take their time getting back to you or kind of brush you off. Even one response I got from someone, another guy jumped on and said that kind of, once again, just didn't want to deal with me. Pretty much didn't want to deal with me. The guy that reached out to me said he had a problem with the guy. I don't want to put the guy's name on blast, but he told me the guy's name, and he gave him crap about trying to use the Capital One codes in Apollo, and they said he put too many codes in and so forth. And I use the same app. That's how I find codes for you guys sometimes. But there's a app, Capital One. If you're a Capital One card holder, you can get this app, or it'll like an add-in for your browser. That's pretty much what it is. And when you go to any kind of site where you have those same cart, where you put in the cart, it'll start scanning when you go to check out for codes. And if there are any codes, it'll give you the best code available. And I found them lots of times. That's not the code I use for my Go. They actually sent me this code because I'm signed up for their email notifications or whatever. So they sent me that code for that one. But I've definitely went in and checked prices and checked codes and found codes, and apparently they can see that on their end and they don't like it. And this one guy, I think he kind of I don't know if he was being serious or what, but he said I think they banned him from that user account. I don't know what it was, but the guy was this guy who from Apollo was a real jerk to this guy who was trying to get his stuff fixed. And I mean, when you're upset about your scooter that's got under 200 miles, and now you're already having stem issues, clicking and clunkiness, on a scooter that's considered to be, from what I heard, I've seen around, like a high-end scooter. Apollo's supposed to be one of the top luxury, you want to call it, scooter brands, and I just don't buy that. I think it's fluff. I think it's hype, and that's my opinion. Like I said, so once again, the Max Fun 10X, interesting scooter. They're a fairly new company. I never heard of Max Fun before the Max Fun 10 Pro. That seems like a pretty decent scooter. I don't see a ton of stuff online about the Max Fun 10 Pro. A little bit, and from what I've seen, it's not a terrible scooter. But I don't know if people have good experiences with problems once they have problems and so forth. I don't know. Not sure about that. Haven't seen too many people from Max Fun 10 Max report on that. Like I said, or the 10 Pro. 10 Max hasn't come out yet. I think it's supposed to be out by June. There's pre-order right now. $2,500 I think is the price around for the pre-order. And if it goes up, I think it's probably worth $2,500 I do. It's a competitor with the InMotion RS. It's not gonna the RS Lite, and so between $2,500 and $3,000 is the range. I'd be happier at $2,500. What it is now, I don't believe I'd pay $3,000 for that scooter. That's me. I wouldn't pay $3,000 for the RS Lite either. 2,500 is probably a good price for both of those. Yeah. So, I think it's nice. I think it's great. It kind of does a little bit better. It's kind of, but it's hard to compare the InMotion RS to the Max 110 Max. It's just that's a difficult thing to do. The RS has got a reputation. The 10 Max has some cool specs and features. In general, I haven't seen too much negative stuff. But the RS is a much popular scooter. I believe they probably sold a lot more of the RSs and RS Lights than the Max 110s in general than they will on the 10 Pro on 10 Max. I love it. I think it's cool. And who knows? I may decide to get one in the future. Not sure. I don't have any plans right now to get another scooter. Scooter prices probably aren't where you want them to be. Once again, it's the summer. I was kind of hoping to get in maybe a little early before spring and see how things went and see maybe some pre-order prices. But I haven't seen anything crazy. And like I said, in general, probably in the summertime, you're going to see them be as high as they're going to be during the year because of demand. And so they'll drop back down as the fall gets here, certainly around Black Friday and so forth. So I'll probably be paying attention during the second half of this year to see where prices go, see how things come out with the new RS, the Max 110 Max, even the Segway GT3 Pro. I'm still curious about that one. You never know. I don't think any of the Apollos are in my future, even if the new Phantoms went down in price right now. The issues that I've heard, it makes me nervous. Those are pretty big issues, and the fact that they kind of try to dodge them, I don't like that at all. I don't like it at all. So that's my take on some of the upcoming scooters, some of the scooters that's been released. I don't remember if I told you guys about the rain, me go out in the rain, but since we did the rain earlier, I kind of talk about how the Klima performed in the rain. It did well, no issues, but when I got back, and it was really not the rain itself, but kind of just it being wet in general, I had maybe some dirt got kind of stuck to the rotors and the inside of the brake pads, and so I had this grinding kind of sound like there was a rock in there, a little tiny, piece of rock or something like that. And so I had to take the brakes off. I cleaned the rotors, cleaned the brake pads, and put everything back together, and no problem at all. I don't think I'd take it back out in those wet conditions because of that reason, not because the scooter is going to have any leaking issues or something like that. No real issues. Like I said, just I don't want to have to replace my brake pads early. I don't want the rotor to get scratched because I'm out there trying to use it, and in the muddy, wet, not even go off road or anything, but just see like this, like the dirt and stuff like this. It's going to get up there. It's going to get in there. And I didn't like that sound when I came back, so I cleaned it immediately, took it apart, cleaned it, the brakes and so forth, put it back on, everything's fine. But I don't believe I'd do that again for that reason alone, if nothing else. Like I said, I'm not too concerned about the electronic components. I certainly am not concerned about the battery getting wet, anything like that. Even the motor controllers, I think they're probably good. But the brakes, kind of collecting that gritty, dirty, wet, I probably wouldn't do that again. If I did need to go out and it was wet, I probably would be more willing to take the Apollo Go, at least to test it. First of all, because they don't use disc brakes, they use drum brakes, so it's probably better for that. I don't think that's easy to mess up with the water. I don't think there's no brake pads, and so there's nothing to get inside there. There's no disc rotors, so I might be willing to consider that. It's also IP66, which is as high, or IPX6, whatever it is. I think it's 66, which is virtually as high as you can get on an overall scooter. I've seen IPX7s for batteries and so forth, but I don't know if I've seen an entire scooter be IPX7. It's probably because of like the display and so forth. It's kind of hard to get that completely locked down in that regard. But in general, like IP66 is really good. It's got the 66 rating, and so that alone makes me more comfortable. And the fact that it has drum brakes, which I don't use hardly. So the regen brakes will work fine in the rain, and they're not going to get messed up in the rain at all. So I'll be willing to test that out, not in heavy rain, but kind of like what I did with it's a little misty, or if I happen to get caught out in the rain, something like that. But I knew it wasn't going to start pouring on me when I was out there in the Klima. We had missed the biggest part of the rain already for that period, and so it was kind of winding up, kind of the end of that little rain that was going on. So I did go out, I did test it out, and that's my take on that. So if no other reason than the brakes itself kind of collecting that gritty, grimy, dirty, muddy stuff, and I don't think I'd do that. I don't want to have to replace my rotor or brake pads early for something like that. And anyway, it wasn't too big of a deal to clean them, but I don't like that idea, so I probably wouldn't take it out even in slightly wet conditions again. Final thoughts on everything. I look forward to doing a podcast. I'll try to squeeze in as many videos as I can. When there's new things that come out, when there's new things to report on, I will definitely jump on and do a video about them. I always have. I always will. Even if they don't have, well, I don't know about all. I don't make any promises for the 10 years from now. But for right now, I'm dedicated to get on and talk about scooters when I see something interesting that's coming out or has come out or is in the news or whatever it is, to get out and talk to you guys. I would like to do a weekly podcast if I'm ever able to get that going consistently. Once again, I should be getting something going pretty soon again. The Average Guy 1983. Hopefully get him on a podcast again pretty soon. Melvin will be this weekend. Tiger Grimtack has been a fairly bit tied up, but hopefully he frees up a little bit so he can jump on. I want to make sure there's three people to do a podcast before I do one. Guys, if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Consider joining me on Patreon, buy me a coffee, or picking up some merch. Thanks, and happy riding.
Potholes can't stop him. He jumps with flair. Wind in his face, like he just doesn't care. Charging his ride while sipping a chai.